Kyle here from allmediareviews.blogspot.com. Gonna do another Marillion album today of sorts. Yeah, just dealing with some stuff, but that's not this. You have a coworker that you learn about coworkers that pass away, and it just definitely distracts you, and you're trying to do stuff. And then I've had a lot of other stuff going on recently with my mother-in-law, and so that's why it's been taking a backseat to make videos and stuff. But anyway. This is not like a proper studio album, but I'm doing it on the it was not, I don't know if it was considered post-Fish, when Fish actually left the band, but 1988 was the last year he was in the band. But this is B-sides themselves, which, hence the title. It's, B-sides from from many singles they released with Fish. And I was just looking at the compact disc and the jewel case. They're somewhere. I don't know where they are right now. They're in a book and or in a box somewhere likely, but it has this. I don't have it on vinyl, although it's available on multiple places, eBay especially, many different versions. I'm trying to find someone from the States, but I just need to pull the trigger and pick that up. But so this record, I got this relatively early in the time I became a fan. But again, it was released on CD in January 1988 and then vinyl in June 1988. But it was considered an import. I don't know if it never... In the U.S., at least, it was always considered an import. But here's the track list. I'll just show it. It's got... Well, the opening track is Grendel, which... polarizing to some fans. A friend of mine, the first time he heard it, which he liked Marillion, namely the Fish period, but he thought, well, it's just Supper's Ready. And I didn't really even know Supper's Ready at that point from Genesis. I happen to adore it, however, but I was just kind of getting at my origin with this record. It wasn't the first record I bought. But only a few years into my fandom, probably late 90s, I bought it at Roadrunner Records, I think, in Minneapolis. I ordered it. Not where their current location is, but just north of it, a few blocks on Nicollet in South Minneapolis. But I bought it, and a couple of the others, Brief Encounter and Reel to Reel, I think at some point I have all those on CD. And those I do know where the CDs are in the book. I'll talk about them maybe in another video, but... I don't know how much I listened to it, though, actually. I mean, I must have listened to it some. I probably listened to it a few times, and I just thought it was okay. But sometime within the next 2, 3, 4 years, I put it on at some point again, after probably, consuming and digesting almost every Marillion record at that point, and loving the Fish stuff. I've talked mostly about them. I think this is the second thing from Fish. Don't make no mistake. I love the Fish period of Marillion. I just happen to also love the Hogarth periods, because really it's been like 3 or 4 eras. But it hit me sometime in the early 2000s, because then I remember at one point with the song Grendel, I ended up writing out the lyrics or finding the lyrics online. This was probably in the early 2000s. And anyway... yeah, it was, because at some point I showed my friend about it and everything. But Grendel is just an epic, and there's so much passion and emotion and sort of creativity in the lyrics, referring to Grendel, I don't know if it's a dragon. Anyway, sort of in, not mythology, but Middle Age history, per se. The Beowulf story. Chaucer, if I'm not mistaken, because we read Chaucer, and I think we did read Beowulf when I was in high school. Anyway, there was a guy I used to work with who got his master's degree in Middle Age and sort of philosophy and history, and he loved Beowulf. He also loved the movie 13th Warrior. He basically saw I think it's Antonio Banderas' character in 13th Warrior, more or less, basically being a screen or adaptation of Beowulf. But Grendel being the sort of the dragon that Beowulf is supposed to slay, per se. I can't remember the exact. But then I also thought the origins of Grendel being like a an antagonist in that story. I can't remember because I know there was an adaptation of something on the Sci-Fi Channel maybe 15 years plus about because Grendel's not he's not a Grendel illustration of Grendel. It's I'm just reading this on Wikipedia. Along with his mother and the dragon. I don't know if he is a dragon or if he's like a some sort of hybrid. he's like an ape dragon. You know, the picture of it illustration looks like a very large, like warrior type ape, but I think that's supposed to be Beowulf, and Beowulf has slayed Grendel. You know, that's the whole thing. It's like Moby Dick, or Moby Dick probably came after that. Anyway, the song itself though is just fantastic. Mark Kelly especially, and Fish, the way that the sort of dark, sinister, theatrical, or just very. It's British literature of a sort, but it's very the characters in the sort of storybook element, almost like a fable. So. And it's in different movements. I don't think this actually gave a lot of details. And, you know, they released Grendel, I'm pretty sure, on Record Store Day in the UK only. I want to say 4 or 5 years ago, sometime in the mid-2010s. But I didn't get it. I mean, I wanted to get it. It was only in the UK. And I know some people that did get it. I was so envious of them. Still want to get it on it was like a picture disc. So... But it was obviously a B-side. I can't remember what single it was. But so the other tracks on here, Charting the Single, Market Square Heroes is like a staple live. You know, I mean, I'm not going to be able to go down this list necessarily. I mean, I'd have to go to Marillion's Wikipedia or something like that to know which ones are the B-side of what, you know. But, you know, Cinderella Search is probably my second favorite track on here. I think part of that was when I heard the Hogarth group play an acoustic version, like Pissing Up the Brewery or something like that, one of the Christmas CDs in like 2001. I kind of just was like, wow, I forgot how great that track is. Again, very literate, that's a little more, what do you call it? Sophisticated, sophistopop, sort of delicate. It's very gentle, delicate, very romantic. Romantic's really the primary word I'm thinking about. There's a romantic element with a lot of like a fantasy storybook romantic element to so much of the Fish Marillion albums, other than maybe Clutching. But even to that point, I think of just like the fantasy element, like between Cinderella's Search. I don't know if that was just purely inspired by Cinderella, you know, and the whole they're searching for who fits the glass slipper and all that stuff, the prince. Charting this, I mean, all these songs have like this kind of some sort of melodic. I mean, is it the neo-progressive rock? You know, they definitely are connected to Script, especially the Script sound. You know, and I forgot to mention in the Script video I did. Of course, that's the only record that Mick Pointer, the only proper full-length Mick Pointer album. He left the band after that point, but after that, I actually have a Mick Pointer record. I'll have to show someday. He did all of it, I think, Script live. But let's just see here. I don't know, Marillion's. I mean, going through this, I'd have to go through. You know, like Freaks is another staple live. Tucson, I forgot that. That's later. Tucson almost sounds like a Fish song, like a Fish solo song. So, I mean, it does have, it's not all from one period exactly, but based on the timeline, Lady Nina is also on here. Lady Nina might have been on Misplaced Childhood, and Cinderella Shirt might have been on Fugazi, the time frame of some of these songs. I know Grendel was written around the same time as Script, so they originally were going to release it with Grendel, but it would have probably been a double for your first album. It's kind of ambitious, and who knows, some people would buy it for that reason. You don't even know about this band, you're going to buy a double album from them. But, you know, I mean, there's the singles, you know, like Garden Party. You'd have to, I mean, they actually did release Market Square Heroes because it was as an individual single, but it must have been a B-side on something else. But it doesn't say the B-sides on here, unfortunately. But Anyway, I'm not going to go through it. Margaret, the last track, I've listened to that. The funniest line in that is when Fish is basically, it's during an encore, a live encore, while Mick Pointer was still in the band. And he goes through the band members, then he goes and on audience, you, that's got to be priceless. But yeah, this is a great collection, and this is why because I consider this, even though these were B-sides, this kind of, to me, is the fifth Fish Marillion studio album. Now, again, there's those other EPs that somehow fit into the canon, because I guess you could call this an EP, but the fact that Grendel is like 18 minutes makes the album more of a full-length album length. But this is a compilation, technically. It's a compilation of their B-sides, but I just happen to love a lot of it. You know, like I said, Freaks and Market Square Heroes are both just kind of live staples that they play. They play with Hogarth up to this day frequently. At least Market Square Heroes. The keyboards. I think that's one reaction I get to a lot of these songs is that they were very keyboard driven. I mean, not that a lot of their songs haven't been keyboard driven since, but with Fish, especially the first couple albums, the keyboard plays as much, if not a bigger role than the guitar. I always kind of look at Marillion's sound as being very democratic. Fish, though, when he was in the band, really was like 60% of the band in a lot of ways, because he had such a presence. His vocal style was so unique, and his lyrics and what the kind of songs they were writing. And he did a lot of the songwriting. But the second part of their sound that seems to really stand out, maybe as much if not more, on this compilation, on these B-sides, is Mark Kelly's keyboard work. So, but yeah, Three Boats Down from the Candy. I mean, I listen to this and I think, God, I loved Fish. I just loved a lot of the songs that he wrote. You know, I love the 4 proper studio albums, but this thing, and again, I consider Grendel, I'm not going to spoil a lot here, but I would still consider Grendel my favorite thing they ever did, actually. As much as I love this band and love dozens of their songs, if I had to pick one track, gun to my head, I did a blog entry years ago, and that's what went on number 1. I mean, as much as it does sound like Supper's Ready, mainly the Apocalypse 9/8 or whatever, that the little bass line about midway through or 2/3 through the song, I don't know what movement it is, like the 4th movement. I'm not even sure if Grendel, if there are movements in it, but and of course there's one or two versions of Grendel which came on the Script remaster, which I don't like as much. But anyway, so that's my take on B-sides themselves, which, you know, in the Marillion canon, it's just like, you know, Best of Both Worlds or 6 of one half dozen of another. It's a compilation album. But I consider it, because it's all these B-sides isolated from that window of time, sort of like the 5th proper or sort of semi-proper studio album. So what's your take, Marillion fans, on B-sides? Is it just a compilation? You know, I mean, I've collected a lot of the singles. Or do you actually see it as sort of, even though all the songs weren't written at once, you see it as an entity and a proper LP, just like all the other records in their catalog, including the records with Fish? And how do you compare it to the Fish albums? Probably most people would say they put it behind the 4, and I'm on the fence on that. I'm not sure I would. We'll find out when I finally do my rankings where it stands. So thank you for watching. Please give it a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.